What if the image of Earth we know was just a carefully created illusion? A simple question, but one that can shake everything we believe to be real. Since we were little, we grew up seeing that perfect blue planet suspended in the void of space, featured in books, films, and the famous photos released by NASA. But what if I told you that the true appearance of the Earth could be very different from what we are shown? Have you ever wondered why, in the age of technology, we still see so many inconsistencies in official images? Stay with me until the end, because what you discover now may surprise you a lot. NASA, recognized worldwide as the main authority in space exploration, also bears the weight of several accusations involving secret programs, data manipulation, and information suppression. Are the images of Earth we see really authentic captures or the result of carefully edited digital compositions? Doubt hangs over independent documentaries, testimonies from former employees, and above all, those small discrepancies that few dare to question. In the universe of space conspiracies, the mystery of the Earth's true appearance becomes even more intriguing, fueling the idea that there are secrets that have never been revealed to the public. Maybe you're thinking, but why hide something so great? A legitimate question, and one that deserves to be investigated in depth. Some theories suggest that it is not just about aesthetics or technical issues, but about controlling information, protecting global interests, and, who knows, even hiding structures or anomalies that should not be known to humanity. Does it seem absurd? Perhaps, but history teaches us that the greatest revelations begin precisely where common sense prefers not to look. Get ready to dive into an investigation that combines curiosity, documented facts, and unanswered mysteries. Because truth, as they say, is often stranger than fiction. And what you see next could forever change the way you look at the sky. Let's analyze the evidence together, deconstruct the official arguments, and understand why more and more people believe that NASA hides the true appearance of the Earth. In fact, while you're listening to all this, tell me here in the comments, have you ever stopped to think that the image of our house in the universe could be a manipulated construction? Have you ever felt that strange feeling that something big is being hidden from us? I would love to know your view on this. Your opinion is very important because every comment you leave here not only enriches this collective investigation, but also strengthens a community of people who, like you and me, want to see beyond what they show us. If this topic makes sense to you, take the opportunity to leave your like now. It seems small, but it makes all the difference so that this video reaches even more people who also need to open their eyes to these possibilities. And of course, if you want to continue following content like this, which challenges what is told and explores mysteries that many prefer to ignore, subscribe to the channel. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and take this message further and further. Together, we can build a space where doubt is not a reason for fear, but for strength. A space where questioning is not only allowed, but encouraged. So comment, like, and subscribe, because the journey ahead will be even more surprising than you imagine. Since the first steps of space exploration, a curious pattern has been established. All the images we have of Earth have been carefully filtered and released by a single source. When we look at history, we realize that in all great missions, from the famous pale blue dot captured by the Voyager probe to the photos taken in the Apollo missions, there is absolute control over what reaches our knowledge. Nothing seems to be random. Every angle, every color, every texture on the planet is presented as a perfectly rehearsed show. It's as if we were watching the backstage of a grand theater play, where we only see what they want us to see. And the most intriguing thing is that, in recent years, new suspicions have begun to emerge in a way that is almost impossible to ignore. Independent analyses, image editing experts, and even former employees involved in space projects began to point out inconsistencies in several photos of Earth, in times when satellite technology is improving. it is at least strange that certain images show repetitive cloud patterns, distortions in the colors of the oceans, and even discrete flaws that look like digital edits. The question that echoes is simple. If we have the ability to send probes billions of kilometers away, how is it possible that images from our own home still raise so many doubts? Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because what is at stake is not just what the Earth looks like, but rather the way our collective mindset is shaped. The image of the Earth seen from space has a gigantic emotional impact. It represents our fragility, our smallness in the face of the cosmos, but it also conveys a feeling of unity, of belonging. And when we realize that this image may have been manipulated, it is as if a part of our own perception is called into question. The question arises, how many decisions based on our view of the world were actually influenced by a hidden truth? This journey of questioning is not about discrediting scientific advances or denying the grandeur of space exploration. On the contrary, it's about opening space to reflect on what is shown and, mainly, on what is omitted. The transformation begins precisely here, the moment we stop consuming information passively and start actively seeking what is behind the curtain. After all, if even the representation of our own existence can be constructed behind the scenes, what else could have been carefully redesigned without us realizing it? Recently, a series of images released by international agencies reignited the controversy. Comparisons made between records supposedly taken in the same period show intriguing discrepancies, subtly altered positions of continents, shades of blue, that vary inexplicably proportions of the planet that, in some cases, defy even the laws of physics as we know it. What should be an objective photograph ends up becoming a work open to interpretation, or perhaps to manipulation. And here, the question comes back to the mind of those who observe carefully. Are we really seeing the Earth as it is, or just as they want us to see it? The most fascinating thing is that, in this tangle of distorted versions and truths, ordinary people also emerge. Independent investigators, tireless, curious people who dedicate their lives to deciphering every suspicious detail. This silent current of search for authenticity grows with each new revelation, reinforcing how much the thirst for answers is greater than any imposed narrative. And at that point, you become an essential part of this transformation. Because every reflection, every doubt shared, every attentive look that refuses to accept everything as absolute truth strengthens this journey even more. Write in the comments, I'm on this journey too, if you feel that there is something bigger behind these images that were presented to us as indisputable truths. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because it is precisely when we begin to question what seems obvious that the most disconcerting revelations emerge. The question that has been silently echoing for decades needs to be asked with all courage. Is the Earth really as we see it in NASA images? This doubt, which previously only inhabited obscure forums and theories considered alternative, is now gaining more and more strength in the public debate. This is not just empty skepticism or gratuitous distrust. It's about looking at the details, the small inconsistencies, the signs that, when put together, form a mosaic of inconsistencies that are difficult to ignore. If we look carefully, we will see that many of the official images of Earth are made up of different photographic fragments assembled with the help of CGI technologies, computer graphics, to form what, until recently, we accepted without question as the real view of our planet. And that's where the mystery intensifies. In some of these montages, the colors of the oceans vary from vibrant tones to much duller versions. The clouds, which should form randomly, appear replicated as perfect copies. The shadows and textures of the continents are presented in ways that defy the logic of the sun's natural lighting. How can we explain these anomalies if we do not at least admit the possibility that the images went through a thorough editing process before being presented to the world? Each new technical analysis that emerges reinforces this impression, What we see may not be exactly reality, but an interpretation of it, carefully adjusted to convey a specific sensation. A feeling of order, of perfection, of security, as if it were necessary to protect ourselves from something more complex, or perhaps more chaotic. And when we talk about perception control, we enter directly into one of the most delicate fields of social transformation, the ability to shape mentalities based on visual symbols. Think of the emotional impact of the famous blue marble image, captured by the Apollo 17 mission in 1972. A blue planet, isolated in the dark vastness of space, conveying not just beauty, but a powerful message of fragility and global unity. An image that shaped entire generations, influenced political and environmental decisions, and boosted social movements. But what if the construction of this image had been so meticulous that it went beyond the simple intention of recording and entered the territory of conscious manipulation? This is the true journey we are taking here, leaving the surface of ready-made narratives and diving behind the scenes of information. And when we look closely, we realize that the concept of hidden truth becomes much more than a theory. It presents itself as a concrete possibility, full of layers, revelations, and profound implications. What appears to be a simple image of Earth can, in fact, carry within it a much larger story, made up of decisions made in rooms where the public was never invited to enter. And we're not just talking about technical variations. We are talking about deliberate choices about what to show and what to omit, about how the visual representation of our existence can be used to induce feelings, guide behaviors, and consolidate certain versions of reality. The impact of this is gigantic. We are not just dealing with pretty photographs, but with powerful tools of cultural and psychological influence. Tools that shape how we perceive our place in the universe. Now, imagine what else could have been adjusted, remodeled, or simply hidden. This reflection opens up space for a transformation in the way we interpret not only the images given to us, but the entire narrative that accompanies our understanding of the world. We begin to see that, in many cases, what is presented as pure science can be intertwined with strategic interests, political decisions, and of course, the old need to control information. It is important to remember, questioning is not denying science or the advances of humanity. Questioning is an act of courage. It is understanding that the journey towards knowledge necessarily involves a willingness to face the dark areas of information, those spaces where the light of truth is not always as intense as we would like it to be, and it is in this terrain, often nebulous and uncomfortable, that the most impactful discoveries emerge as we move forward. We begin to realize that it's not just the Earth's appearance that's at stake. It is our own ability to discern between what is real and what is carefully constructed. It is our autonomy of thought, our freedom to interpret the world through our own eyes and not just through the filters imposed on us. Now, looking at all this, I want to invite you to leave a sentence here in the comments that summarizes this transformation of vision that we are building together. Comment, "That makes sense to me." And let's continue, because the next step on this journey leads us to face even more provocative theories and revelations that could forever change the way we see our planet. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject, because understanding what's behind the images of the Earth is not just an exercise in curiosity. It's an invitation to rethink the entire structure of information we rely on throughout our lives. What few know, and even fewer question, is that most of the images of Earth circulating around, including those in textbooks and environmental campaigns, are not unique photographs captured directly from space. They are, in fact, complex digital mosaics. These mosaics are formed from the union of thousands of fragments captured by satellites at different times, conditions, and angles. Each piece is treated, colored, and adjusted to create a uniform and impactful vision of our planet. At first glance, it may seem like just a technical necessity, But when we delve behind the scenes of this process, questions arise that have a profound impact on our collective mindset. Why create such an artificial composition to represent something so grand? Why not publish pure, unedited images, even if imperfect? The most common answers talk about technological limitations. The need to correct differences in lighting or to cover regions obscured by clouds. But other, more provocative views suggest something more. Could part of this practice be due to the desire to hide anomalies that could raise more questions than answers? Unusual structures, unexplained atmospheric phenomena, or even evidence that challenges the traditional narrative of official science. If we think honestly, it wouldn't be the first time that political, strategic, and scientific interests override simple transparency. And this is where reports from insiders and former employees come into play, adding a layer of complexity that is difficult to ignore. People who, for years, worked in bodies associated with space exploration say that there is, indeed, an internal policy of censorship and selective editing of images. Testimony suggests that certain areas of the planet, especially those related to secret experiments or little understood natural phenomena, are deliberately erased, softened, or replaced with generic patterns. All of this under the argument of not causing panic or not feeding unfounded theories. But by hiding the truth, wouldn't they be precisely creating the basis for these theories to gain strength? This type of manipulation, even if justified in the name of security or science, raises a powerful reflection on the impact that hidden decisions have on our construction of reality. How many beliefs, how many choices were made by entire generations, based on representations that were never absolutely faithful? The journey of discovery often requires discomfort, and perhaps it is exactly this discomfort that is now beginning to awaken in so many people around the world. Because we are not just questioning images, we are questioning what these images symbolize. We are questioning the filters applied to our perception. And this transformation is inevitable when we open space to see not only what they show us, but also what they choose to hide. The true beauty of our cosmic home may be even more impressive than any edited photograph, but to find it, we need to cut through this thick layer of partial truths. When we look up at the sky and see that starry blanket, perhaps now we know that we are not just admiring a visual spectacle. We are silently witnessing the consequences of decisions made behind the scenes. Decisions that have shaped how we understand our place in the universe. And from the moment we accept to investigate these hidden layers, we stop being just spectators and become active participants in this transformation of mentality. The revelations that emerge from this new perspective are not just about space. They talk about how we relate to information, about how our trust is built, challenged, and often rebuilt. They talk about the responsibility we have to keep the drive for truth alive, even when it leads us down unexpected paths. Now, in light of all this, I want you to tell me, all this construction, all this visual orchestration that we were led to believe as indisputable, does it make sense to you? Comment, that makes sense to me. And let's continue together on this journey of revelations that is just beginning. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because so far we've talked about theory, behind the scenes, and hidden decisions. But when we look at the hard evidence, at the visual comparisons made over decades, the sense that there is something much bigger going on becomes almost impossible to ignore. If we look closely at the official images of Earth released by NASA, over the years, we will notice something that, at the very least, deserves to be questioned. In iconic photos from missions like Apollo 17, for example, we see a planet with vibrant, almost saturated colors, with perfectly outlined continents and dense white clouds. Years later, in records from the DSCO-VR mission, the tone of the planet changes drastically. The blue of the oceans appears paler. The continents take on almost faint colors, and the clouds appear more dispersed, almost like digitally painted. lines. If it were just a matter of different equipment, it would be reasonable to expect subtle variations. But what we see are such huge transformations in the size, color, and shape of the Earth that they force us to reflect. In some images, the planet appears as a perfect sphere. In others, it appears slightly flattened. Proportions change, curvatures alter, and even the position of continents sometimes seems to defy logic. And when we compare these records with documents leaked by independent sources, the scenario becomes even more intriguing. Prints of internal NASA meetings and emails exchanged between space engineers reveal discussions about the need to adjust visual elements for better public understanding. In some of these exchanges, terms such as idealized visual composition and perceptual corrections appear almost casually, as if altering the representation of the Earth were just another step in the process, as commonplace as adjusting the brightness of a vacation photograph. This mentality reveals a lot about the impact that certain decisions have on our collective journey of understanding reality. What began as small technical adaptations to improve the quality of images has, over time, shaped our view of existence. Each edit, each subtle tweak, each aesthetic choice built a version of the planet that was perhaps never fully authentic. And it's not just in still images that these inconsistencies appear. In official videos of live broadcasts from the International Space Station, captures taken by attentive observers show abrupt cuts, unexpected changes in lighting, and even the presence of unidentified objects that, curiously, are quickly censored or explained generically as reflections or visual artifacts. The feeling that remains is that we are watching a carefully choreographed play, where the scenes behind the scenes are as important, if not more, than what is presented on the main stage. The most fascinating thing is to realize that this evidence does not just arise from the efforts of major investigations. Many of them were revealed by ordinary people, curious people, who, in the midst of their routine, decided to look more closely, question details, look for connections that few took the trouble to see. It is this attitude, this willingness, to investigate beyond the surface, that leads us to a profound transformation in the way we view information. And it is exactly at this point in the journey that we need to consciously pause. Not to automatically discredit everything we have been taught, but to give room for constructive doubt. To remember that what is delivered to us in a brilliant and perfect way does not always represent the totality of the truth. There is immense value in cultivating the ability to look beyond appearances. To recognize that, often, the true story is hidden between the lines. Behind the scenes, in the fragments that escape the official versions. This reflection opens an important path for us to understand not only spatial reality, but also the functioning of structures of power and information control in the world in which we live. Every decision to alter an image, to soften an anomaly, to censor a piece of reality is ultimately a decision about what we should see and, most importantly, what we should not even imagine. Therefore, each new comparison, each new leak, each new inconsistency discovered is not just a technical detail. It is a silent invitation for us to wake up, so that we take responsibility for not accepting everything passively, so that we can be active participants in our own journey of discovery, and, above all, so that we keep the flame of the search for hidden truth alive, even when it leads us down uncomfortable paths full of uncertainty. Now, after everything we've seen so far, I want you to record your perception of this journey we're on together. Comment, "I'm seeing beyond the surface, and we will continue to uncover the layers that remain hidden in this story that, without a doubt, goes far beyond what we are told." Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Because, to be fair, we also need to look at the other side of the story. The official version from NASA and other space agencies that follow the same protocol is quite clear when asked about these edits in Earth images. According to them, the adjustments made are purely technical, with the aim of improving viewing for the public. There would be, according to this narrative, no intention to manipulate the truth, hide evidence, or create an illusion. Just the need to compose more understandable images, correct distortions caused by equipment, or harmonize color tones that vary depending on solar incidence, atmospheric layers, or the limitations of space camera sensors. They explain, for example, that to create the classic perfect blue planet image, it is necessary to collect several fragments at different times, as a single click would not technically be able to capture the entire globe at once in high resolution. The Earth's own rotation and meteorological conditions would inevitably require this type of composition. Defenders of this explanation claim that, without this post-production work, we would have confusing, fragmented images full of gaps, which could generate even more misinformation and distrust among the general public. In a way, there is a logic to this argument. After all, in other fields of science and technology, there are also technical adjustments, such as in medical imaging exams, in which filters and contrast corrections are applied to better identify organs and tissues. The question that arises, however, is another, much deeper and more uncomfortable. If everything is just a technical adjustment, why isn't there a clear policy of absolute transparency? Why not also make the raw images available, without filters, without compositions, without retouching, so that each person can see with their own eyes and form their own perception? This lack of openness fuels a series of dilemmas about trust and integrity. Because when transparency is not common practice, gaps naturally arise where doubt creeps in. And in this fertile ground of uncertainty, not only conspiracy theories grow, but also the genuine need to seek more complete answers. It is the silent impact of decisions made behind the scenes, shaping the collective mindset without the majority even realizing it. It's curious how the better visualization argument carries within it a seemingly noble intention, but also, seed of subtle manipulation. After all, who defines what is best? Who chooses which tweaks are acceptable and which cross the fine line between technical improvement and reality altering? It is at this point that our journey of questioning deepens even further, revealing layers of decisions that go far beyond the aesthetics of an image. And the most intriguing thing is that, when confronted directly about these issues, official representatives rarely provide detailed answers. Communication is vague, protocol limited to cold notes that reinforce the idea that everything is within standards. But who sets these standards? And why, if the objective is public trust? Not make the entire process accessible, open, transparent. This silence, this resistance to opening the backstage doors, ends up shouting much louder than any official statement. There is a brutal difference between the real need for technical adjustments, something understandable in any process of capturing images in extreme conditions, and the deliberate construction of a uniform visual narrative that, over time, was imposed as absolute truth. This transformation of collective perception did not happen by accident. It was the result of choices, of strategic decisions, which perhaps, for many, still go unnoticed. But for those willing to look beyond the surface, it is impossible to ignore. The question that remains is, if what we are shown has already been filtered, edited, and composed to meet certain criteria, how many other realities are being shaped in the same way, far from our eyes? And, most importantly, what impact does this have on our ability to question, reflect, and seek our own truth? Every time we accept an edited image as if it were a faithful portrait of reality, we give up, albeit unconsciously, part of our autonomy of thought. This awareness leads us to rethink the way we consume information, not just about space, but about everything that surrounds us. Because the most powerful transformation doesn't happen when we simply discover we've been deceived. It happens when we decide to no longer accept ready-made truths without reflection. When we choose to actively participate in our journey of understanding, investigating, questioning, comparing. connecting dots that previously seemed disconnected. Now, with all these reflections in mind, I want to invite you to be part of this new mentality of conscious search. Write in the comments, "I choose to see beyond." And let's continue together, exploring other even deeper layers of this story that is far from being completely told. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because everything we've talked about so far, about technical edits, visual compositions, and perception adjustments, seems to take on another dimension when we confront a series of revelations that emerged behind the scenes on the internet. In restricted forums, in private discussion groups, supposedly leaked images began to circulate. Photos that show the Earth in a very different way from what we are used to seeing. These images, whose origin has not yet been officially confirmed, present a representation of our planet that radically challenges the narrative constructed in recent decades. Instead of the intense blue and vibrant green that shaped our idea of the home in the cosmos, these photos present an Earth in dull tones, with almost gray areas, less defined contours, and an atmosphere that seems much thicker and more charged than the version we were sold. The geometry of the continents appears slightly distorted, as if the official cartography were just a simplification of something much more complex. When these images emerged, they were not accompanied by big headlines or formal investigations. On the contrary, they were quickly discredited, labeled as fake news, and banned from major social platforms under allegations of misinformation. But for those who were already paying attention, for those who had already started to question the information behind the scenes, the immediate reaction of censorship was, in itself, a warning sign. Because true transformation begins precisely there, when we understand that, often, the effort to suppress information is even more revealing than the information itself. And these images, even fragmented, even shrouded in mystery, had a profound impact on whoever came across them. Suddenly, the comfortable and romanticized idea of the perfect planet was called into question, forcing a new journey of questioning that goes far beyond the aesthetics of the photos. If what these images suggest is true, then not only has our visual perception of Earth been shaped, but also all the emotional symbology we have built around it. The planet as an ideal refuge, as a symbol of unity and perfection, could, in fact, be a carefully edited creation to support narratives that go far beyond simple scientific contemplation. The hidden truth, in this case, would not just be about the appearance of the Earth, but about the profound impact that this appearance has on our decisions, our hopes, our collective dreams. This break in expectations opens a new portal of reflection. If we were led to believe in such an elaborate version of something as fundamental as the look of our own world, how many other layers of reality could have been redesigned without us even suspecting it? Doubt becomes a powerful invitation for transformation, for a change of mentality, for strengthening our ability to look beyond the ready-made versions that are given to us. And the most provocative thing about all this is understanding how the control of visual perception is just the tip of the iceberg. Because whoever holds the power to shape images also shapes interpretations, beliefs, decisions. And by shaping these deep layers of collective consciousness, it directly influences the course of our journey as a civilization. These leaked images, whether true or not, act as an uncomfortable mirror. They force us to confront the possibility that reality may be much less solid, much less comfortable, and much more manipulable than we would like to admit. They show us that sometimes the search for truth is not just a matter of looking more closely, but of being willing to face what, for a long time, we preferred not to see now. Thinking about everything you've heard so far, I want you to tell me, did this break in expectations also impact you? Comment, "My vision is changing because the journey we are on is just beginning. And what comes next will further challenge everything we believe to be unquestionable." Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Because true transformation happens when we let these discoveries touch us not only on a rational level, but also on an emotional one. When we stop to reflect on the possibility that we are being deceived even about the very appearance of our home in the universe, inevitably, something inside us moves. It's not just more information. It is a fissure that opens up in what we considered solid and unquestionable. If the image of the Earth, this symbol so loaded with meaning, was constructed and shaped to serve interests that we are unaware of, then what other truths could be hidden, silenced, or deliberately erased from our consciousness? What other decisions, what other behind the scenes, what other secrets are camouflaged beneath the polished surface of what we call reality? It's not just distrust, it's about maturation. To develop a new mindset capable of accepting complexity. Uncertainty, the discomfort of not knowing everything, but still. Keep searching, keep questioning, keep walking towards the truth. Even when the path is dark and unknown, this journey changes everything. Our perceptions, our beliefs, the way we choose to interpret the world around us. It requires courage, because questioning what we have always been taught is right often means swimming against the current. It means giving up the easy comfort of certainties to embrace the challenging vastness of possibilities. But it also means freedom. It means, perhaps for the first time, taking control of your own understanding. And this reflection is not just restricted to space, secret missions, or leaked images. It spreads to all areas of life. How many stories that we accept as absolute deserve to be revisited? How many narratives that shaped us, that defined our dreams, our fears, our most intimate decisions, were told only from carefully selected fragments? This is the true silent revolution, the transformation of a mentality that was previously content to consume passively to one that now actively searches, connects dots, questions, versions, searches for the hidden truth that vibrates behind every official narrative. If we look back in history, we will see that humanity's greatest advances always began like this, with someone distrusting what seemed obvious, with someone asking, what if it doesn't work out that way? The journey into the unknown has always first required the courage to recognize that not everything that shines is true light. And it is exactly this courage that we are rescuing now. The feeling that remains is almost as if we were waking up from a dream, where everything seemed organized, explained, and safe. But when we open our eyes, we realize that reality is much broader, more nuanced, more challenging, and, therefore, infinitely more fascinating. This is the beauty of breaking old beliefs, the possibility of building something new, truer, more connected with the real complexity of existence. And as we reflect on this, one question keeps echoing like an uncomfortable whisper. If we have been deceived about something as fundamental as the appearance of our home in the universe, what other realities, what other worlds, what other versions of history are hidden behind the scenes that we never let us see? This reflection, as uncomfortable as it may seem, is actually a gift, because it gives us back the power to choose how we want to see the world, to abandon the mentality of simple spectators and assume the role of conscious explorers, active participants in a journey that is still far from being fully revealed. So now, I really want to hear from you. After everything we've talked about so far, do you believe that NASA hides the true appearance of the Earth? Comment here. I want to see the truth, because there are still many hidden secrets waiting to be revealed, and our journey together is just beginning. If you've come this far, it's because, like me, you feel that this search for hidden truths is much greater than simple curiosity. It's a journey of transforming our own way of seeing the world. So take the opportunity to subscribe here to the channel, so we continue together on this path of discoveries that challenge what seems obvious and reveal everything that is still hidden behind the scenes of reality. And so I know that you were with me until the end. Leave it here in the comments. I'm with you until the end. I want to see who are the ones who are really taking this conscious and courageous journey. If this video touched something, If at any point it made you reflect in a different way, leave a like too. This simple gesture further strengthens this connection that we built throughout the video and makes this message reach more people who are also awakening. And look, there's a video here that complements everything we talked about today. A click. And stay with me there, because this story is far from over.